Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen and Matt Verderame back again to preview Chiefs versus 49ers. We've got a lot to get to today. There's a few different storylines going on in the Chiefs kingdom. But first, how are you doing, Verderame? How are you recovering from this tough loss to the Buffalo Bills?
I'm fine. I'm tired. I feel like I need to get to bed before 2 o'clock in the morning, probably a little bit more often. But other than that, I'm fine. I am in a weird spot with them because I am more encouraged about them than I was a week ago, like before that game, in an odd way. But I've never been more concerned about them as a coaching staff than I am at this point. So I'm very conflicted. But otherwise, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little tired. My wife, her theater company opened a new show last night, so I was out there to support, and she was my ride. So I was there at the after party pretty late. Still recovering a little bit, not as young as I used to be, but doing all right. Happy to talk some Chiefs here with you today, and I know that you've been on the coaching staff a lot in your videos this week on the Arrowhead Addict YouTube channel. So we'll get to that in just a minute. We're also going to talk this Odell Beckham Jr. rumor mill going on, Travis Kelce contract restructure. We got a lot to get to. And most importantly, at the end of the podcast, for those who practice, we've got a cereal review coming up. This is a really special one that I was not prepared for, but this came in the mail yesterday. Jaws cereal. Absolutely incredible. From my sister. My sister found this. It's good to have family members who look out for you and understand you, at the core of your being. You can't get this in the States, I don't think, Verderame. This is from the UK. This is a very special cereal review.
That's awesome. I'm very proud of your sister.
I saw the UPS guy comment. I'm like, what is going on? What did I get here? And I got really excited when I opened the box and saw it because I thought, damn it, finally, the cereal, big cereal is taking note of what we're doing here on this podcast. And maybe now it means I'm a serial influencer and it's just going to start rolling in. Yeah. But it was just my sister. But, good in one way, but bad in another.
I enjoy the term big cereal. We need to, like big pharma. We need to take the fights to the streets against big cereal. And,
we're on a mission to get Count Chocula year round. So, all right. Before we get into everything, we got to let you know this podcast is brought to you by KC Beer Co., Kansas City Beer Company, been our sponsor for a while now. We absolutely love them. They largest locally owned brewery in Kansas City, brew their beers with only 4 ingredients: malt, hops, barley, and yeast. No barley, malt, hops, water, and yeast. It's good stuff. It's an award-winning brewery with a terrific lineup of brews. So whatever type of beer you're into, KC Beer Co. has a style for you. We actually get notes from people who are out of towners. They come into Kansas City for the first time. So they listen to this podcast, they go to KC Beer Co. And they I've been hearing like, hey, I tried this beer. I don't usually like lagers, but everything I had at Kansas City Beer Company was great. So check them out if you're in Kansas City or you're in the area and dare to beer different. And give them a shout on Twitter for us at KC Beer Co. All right, Verderame, a few things to get to here. The first one I've got to bring up is a little bit of behind the scenes things going on with the Chiefs this week. So the first move was that the Chiefs restructured Travis Kelce's contract to move some money around, converted into a signing bonus essentially. So he gets the money right away, and that spreads it out right across the rest of as far as cap hits go. Yeah. And what that does is it lessens his hit, right? Frees up cap space for the Chiefs. Trade deadline's coming up. Why did they do this?
Well, I think part of it is, first of all, the trade deadline, for those who are unaware, is November 1st. I think part of it was just because they needed to open up a little bit of space just in case of injury. They had under $1 million in space. Teams like to have about $4 or $5 million on hand. So I think that's part of it. After Aaron Wilson of Pro Football Network tweeted out that the Chiefs were, I don't want to misrepresent his tweet, either serious contenders or
I think it was serious contenders.
Okay. Yeah. For Odell Beckham Jr. I reached out to my sources that are apprised of this situation. My understanding is that the Chiefs are monitoring the Odell Beckham situation as they would with anybody else they might have interest in. The expectation is that the teams that are most involved are the Chiefs, the Rams, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Packers. Those are the teams to watch. Doesn't mean somebody else couldn't get involved. God knows with stuff like this, hey, 2 weeks, a lot could change. I was told that look, it's not likely he signs before the trade deadline, that he might want to wait into November. My guess on that would be, because I couldn't get a firm answer as to why, my guess would be because he probably wants to see how these teams continue to play going forward, who maybe gets somebody at the deadline, right? Maybe it would affect him depending on if you get a receiver, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of the thought process. But look, they're interested in him. I mean, that's for fact. They were interested in him last year.
Right.
Many people reported that they were in on him last year. They couldn't quite get it done. We'll see. I think it helps the Chiefs that the Rams are such a disaster right now. I think that helps because I think the Rams are clearly the favorites in the clubhouse, but now he's talking about they lowballed him. They're not playing well. I think it's a fair thing to say of those 5 teams, the Chiefs and the Bills are the 2 teams you look at and say, well, they're the 2 best. The Bills are better right now, but the Bills also have 2 other receivers who are going to get a ton of target share. I mean, if he goes to Kansas City, he's the number 1 receiver on the team. So, look, does all that mean he ends up in KC? I don't know, but I think that there's definitely interest from the Chiefs, but I don't expect anything to be imminent. And Evan, thank you for a very big super chat, man. Really appreciate that. Evan. That is awesome, and thank you for the kind words. And Avalanche Technical Services coming into the party. Welcome, first time live. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Evan. So with the Odell situation, obviously, we know how talented he is, just from an athletic standpoint. Production's been up and down, hasn't always been in the best situation, but performed pretty well for the Rams last year, and you and I were there together, sitting next to each other at the Super Bowl, and he got off to a good start, and then the injury happened. So I guess it kind of comes down to what's important to Odell Beckham Jr. What is he considering here? Is it does he want to be the number 1? Is it legacy? Is he after rings? Obviously, he'd rather get more rings, so it's probably all contenders he's considering. Where do you want to live for a little bit, right? That's probably factoring in there somewhere, but maybe not as much as
that factors in a ton. Because if you're think about it, if you're him and you sign in mid-November, you're gonna be for 2 months,
right?
I mean, let's be
real. You're not moving. You're not buying a house.
Look, you're not. LA's on that list, but other than that, it's not exactly a list of glitz and glamour, right? I mean, it's Baltimore, it's Buffalo, it's Kansas City, it's Green Bay. So to me, I think that gets overblown. Yeah, you're not now. Look, if you're going to sign somewhere for 3 years, 4 years, then yeah, sure. I think that factors in quite a bit. If you're going somewhere for a couple of months and you're trying to be a mercenary and win a ring, I don't think that is going to really matter to you all that much.
Yeah, he's 29 years old. I think it's unlikely that the Chiefs would want to sign a long-term contract with him. He probably doesn't want a long-term contract, I would think. At this point, he probably wants to come in, like you said, play for a couple months, make a few $1,000,000, and then reevaluate in the off season and maybe sign the last contract of his career if he can perform well. So, from that standpoint, I don't think Kansas City's out of the running, and it's not like these guys have a lot to do anyway during football season outside of football stuff. So, who cares where you're at?
Right.
So, I guess then the question becomes, do you think Odell Beckham Jr. helps the Chiefs? Do you think this is a guy they need to bring in, or should they just get Skyy Moore more involved?
Okay, so that almost feels like bait at this point. I think put your hands together. Okay, I mean, I think that would be my answer to that. Yes to all the above. I would go after Odell Beckham for one reason. If teams want to sit here and play you in man coverage, he creates a lot of problems because he's going to beat most corners, even at 30 years old, which he turns, by the way, on November 5th. Like he for the Rams last season was a massive difference maker. And it's funny because you look at his numbers, he was only on pace for like 600 some odd yards, but he had 5 touchdowns in 8 games. And in the playoffs, he was damn near unstoppable. Like anytime they wanted to go to him, they just went to him. And I think when you can play like that, I mean, like you said, we were at the Super Bowl. Until he blew his knee out, the Bengals could not stop him. I mean, every time they went, it was wide open. So he changes things. Like I think if you're the Chiefs, you're too talented a receiver that you don't need him?
Right.
And then on top of that, with the Skyy Moore stuff, Skyy Moore right now, I believe, is the best route runner on the team. I mean, at receiver, I'm not including Kelsey. So like maybe Juju, because God knows it's not MVS or Hardman. Okay, no. So maybe it's Juju, but Moore runs really nice routes and he's faster than Juju, like significantly faster. And by the way, he catches the ball. Like, it's not like he's had issues. And Mahomes throws it to him. So that tells you Mahomes trusts him. I am to a point with this where I'm at just about a breaking point. Like, put him on the field. I don't know what their deal is. They sat there all preseason, and he and Isaiah Pacheco were like sacred cows to them in the preseason. They're playing early in the game. They're getting yanked early. Got to keep them healthy. And now the games start, and they're nowhere to be found. They just can't get on the field.
Yeah.
Like, you're just so above playing these guys, you just can't be bothered to do it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And I know people say, well, they lead the league in points. I get it. They'd be even better if they played these two kids.
Right.
Like, it's very weird. It's very weird. I think it is absolutely beyond time to get Skyy Moore on the field.
Yeah, I agree. I had a rant on Sunday night about Isaiah Pacheco as well. He's averaging the most yards per carry of any running back on the team. He looks explosive. He looks like he's a hard-nosed runner. He's running guys over in the Bills game. Like, at a certain point, I think it's time, if everything that's coming out of Kansas City is correct and they believe in this kid, just get him out there, find ways to mix him in more. Because right now he's had a nice season, but you're getting pretty much par for the course from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? He's pretty much the same guy he's been since he's been in Kansas City, except he's been getting in the end zone a little bit more. His average is about the same. So, if you're happy with that and you're Andy Reid and you trust him, fine, I get it. But if you think that you can put another explosive playmaker on the field, and that's why they're interested in OBJ, right? Like, he's another guy that like Travis Kelce, teams have to account for. And that's no disrespect to Juju or MVS or anybody else, but I don't think those guys strike fear into the hearts of defenses like a Travis Kelce or a Tyreek Hill. And I think OBJ is one of those guys where you're kind of like, hey, we got to pay attention to this guy or he's going to hurt us.
I mean, I just don't understand the thought process at all that goes into their offensive game planning. I don't get it. I think a lot of their issues are covered up by the fact that they have got a quarterback 9 times out of 10. And I have always kind of felt this way, but I always felt like it was such a stupid thing to say that I was like, well, maybe I'm just wrong. But now I think I'm not wrong. And it's just, I'm up to the point I don't care if it's stupid to say. I believe it. Andy Reid is a great coach Monday through Saturday. And on Sunday, he's a really, really inconsistent coach. I'm not going to say he's a bad coach. That would be overstepping it. He's an inconsistent coach on Sundays. He is one of the great schemers, one of the great play designers, one of the great matchup creators I've ever seen. And that's why he's a great coach. And that's why he'll go to Canton one day, and he should. He's phenomenal at that. The problem is on Sundays, he and the offensive staff, they are way too inflexible. And you get into these moments where it's very obvious what they should be doing, and they just won't do it because they don't want to do it. If you're a Ring of Honor member right now, you've seen the film Friday that went up, or at least you have access to it. For everybody else, it goes up tomorrow. I did a piece about Isaiah Pacheco, and I did it through a play with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I won't spoil. You can go watch it. But, you're just putting these guys in position to fail. I mean, that's what's happening right now. You're putting these players in a position to fail. And I'm to the point, look, I don't care if you're 6 games in. You've been watching these friggin' guys since May. You've seen them in OTA. Come on. It takes you 6 months to figure out that Isaiah Pacheco's faster than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Here's a real easy way to do it. Line him up at the 40 and let him run to the goal line. I'll tell you who's faster. Set up some cones and have him do a 3-cone drill. I'll tell you who's more explosive. This isn't hard. But they're so beholden to this idea that, Clyde's our guy. He's been here for years. I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying to bench Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but to ask him to run outside is like asking me to go outside and run a 40 and beat an Olympian. It's not happening. You're asking me to do something I cannot do. Asking Clyde Edwards-Helaire to run a bunch of stretch zone reads is insane.
Yeah.
He can't do it. He's not fast enough. And that is where and the same thing with Skyy Moore. Guy runs really good routes. He's got good hands. He runs through contact. He breaks tackles. Mahomes clearly trusts him. He throws it to him all the time when he's out there. And they won't play him. And I'm not, look, again, I'm not even saying nail McCall Hardman to the bench. I'm not saying that. But when you've got Tony Romo, who's got to, by the way, interview all these guys and see all these guys all the time. God knows in Kansas City, see him just about every week. Okay. And he's willing to say, hey, McCall Hardman's got to run that route better. He's got to square that route off. He's not like that happens all the time if you watch their tape where that happens, right? Like you have to be better. And he's not. Like it's to the point, like he's not. He's a fourth-year player. He's not getting much better at these routes. Like, play this kid more. I'm not saying give him every rep Hardman has, but split him. Split his route. It's just they won't do it.
It's a head scratcher. Well, aside from OBJ, who maybe will be making a decision soon, and it would be good, if the Chiefs are going to bring him in, their bye week's coming up. So, that's probably another reason why Veach wanted to have the flexibility. Regardless, maybe they're making a trade, maybe they want to sign OBJ, but they have the flexibility to do it. They don't have to wait, and their bye week's coming up, which is actually good timing for the trade deadline. So if Veach wants to make a move, or if they want to bring in a guy that they've got to get up to speed on the playbook, that's the perfect time to do it. You get that whole week to work with them, to work him in with stuff. So I would be willing to bet the Chiefs are going to make some kind of move here. Verderame, do you think they try to go for a trade?
I think they will make an addition one way or the other, whether it's signing Beckham or trading for somebody. I do. Because history says that Brett Veach is always aggressive. I mean, think about they were going to trade for Earl Thomas before he broke his leg.
Right.
And then they tried to sign him. And thankfully, at the last minute, it didn't work out. Okay. But they tried to sign him to a long-term deal. They brought in Terrell Suggs late in their Super Bowl run, and he helped. They brought in, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name last year. Oh, Melvin Ingram. They brought in Melvin Ingram last year, right? And they traded a 6th-round pick for him. Now other guys they've brought in haven't worked. They brought in Le'Veon Bell. They brought in Josh Gordon. Yeah, but they always bring in somebody. Like, that's kind of what they do. Now, do I think they're going to go out and trade some crazy amount for the guy? No, I don't. But John says don't trade for Robert Quinn unless it's a 5th-round pick or later. John, I think that's probably what it would be. And by the way, I'd trade for him in a heartbeat if it was that, because if I'm the Chiefs, once you acquire him, he has no dead money going forward. So they can just kind of go, if they don't want to pay him after, it's fine. Just cut him, restructure him or whatever. If you're the Chiefs, you've got to do something, to me, more up front than anywhere else defensively. You've got to be able to get a better rush than this. I don't know what that means, playing Dunlap more, hoping Karlaftis improves. I don't know what that is, but it's not this, because they can't get home. So, yeah, I think at some point here, everybody wants Brian Burns, and guys, I'm with you, but that's going to cost a fortune. Carolina's not going to trade him unless they feel like they're fleecing you. And at that point, I mean, what are you giving up? You're giving up a first and change. I think Brian Burns is terrific. I'm not giving up a 1st-round pick for him. So, McCaffrey, I've seen people. I think the Chiefs would be insane to trade for Christian McCaffrey. The Chiefs, they don't run the ball. Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to get 8 carries.
That's
can
what
you
I was
imagine
thinking.
that? They give up a fortune for him, and then it's why does Christian McCaffrey now average 50 yards a game? Well, because they hand off 7 times to him.
Right. You want the Chiefs to trade for CMC so he can get 8 carries a game.
Just so you can stand there and watch Edwards-Helaire run a sweep. Yeah,
right.
Just,
yeah.
No, nothing.
It doesn't make sense. And look, I think what people need to understand about Carolina is, I know they fired their coach and people think they're having a fire sale, but Carolina's actually got a decent amount of good young players. And there's not, if you're going to rebuild and you've got some guys on rookie contracts, you don't need to trade those guys. Right. You want to try to attract a high-end coach. You want to trade a guy like Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, you understand why they'd be interested in trading him. A little bit injury prone, older. He's a running back. But some of those other young pieces, like pass rushers, no, they don't want to trade those guys. I think you're right, Verderame. The Chiefs or any other team would have to make a ridiculous offer to get one of those guys for them to even consider it, and they still might not do it. And Christian McCaffrey, the Chiefs got a lot of problems. They don't. Look, would I like to have Christian McCaffrey? Yeah, sure, of course. The guy's unbelievable when he's healthy.
Talent-wise, he's great. I just don't. I think for what you'd have to give up, and then you attach that to they won't run the football, so you're basically trading for a receiver, because I don't see them all of a sudden giving McCaffrey 20 carries a game.
Yeah.
The other thing that scares the hell out of me with McCaffrey is his injuries. That just scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
He's a great player when he's healthy, but man, it's any given week, you just don't know. Is he going to be able to? Now, this year he's played every game. He's been in the injury report a lot. He's played every game. But yeah, I think they'll be aggressive. And by the way, would I be totally shocked if they went out and traded for Christian McCaffrey? No, because Brett Veach, I've said this many times, he's a big game hunter. He believes in go get stars. And I also think in a weird way that Buffalo game kind of emboldened them because they played them down to the wire. Like I spoke to some people around them after that game, and they were pretty optimistic after. Like, okay, you know what? Like we're right there, and we got a really young team that's coming together, and we got months to go here, like before we, potentially have a rematch. I just felt pretty good, quite honestly. So they may be looking at it like, look, if we can upgrade more than Buffalo here over the next couple of weeks, that might tip the scale. Now, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I do not expect the Chiefs to stand pat. They never do. So I don't expect them to do that now. Plus, they have 12 picks. Like they're not going to use all those picks. Right. So they're going to trade them at some point. They might trade them now.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. What's exciting is that our Chiefs fans should take heart is that I think the Bills are pretty much as good as they're going to get, right? Like when everybody's healthy, the guys they got, they're really great. The Chiefs are going to get better. I think we all agree that they're going to get healthier and they're going to get better as their young guys get some more experience. So having a 4-point loss at home to Buffalo and a game where your quarterback made, kind of had a little bit of a bad game, a few bad decisions, you got to feel pretty good about your chances come January if you meet that team again. I got to ask you this before we start talking Chiefs 49ers. What about the Bills and Christian McCaffrey?
Well, I think the Bills, if they want to trade Carolina, they have an inside line because their whole front office and their coaching staff is from Carolina. I mean,
what happens how does that change things if they were to get Christian McCaffrey?
They're not run the ball either. So I think you're basically acquiring a receiver. Look, obviously it would make them even more dynamic. It would make him even harder to stop. And now you're playing now you have an option game with Allen and with McCaffrey that good luck. I've thought about that. Like, do the Chiefs just acquire Christian McCaffrey so Buffalo doesn't? Like, I mean, but I don't think you can do that. Like, unless you really feel like he's a perfect fit for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the only thing if you're the Bills though is like next year is when Allen becomes really expensive. So now you're talking about trying to fit in another contract. And McCaffrey going forward after this year, he's got 3 years left for approximately $36 million. So it's not nothing. If you look at the Bills cap situation per over the cap next year, they're over the cap by $19,000, which is not obviously a ton, but they only have 37 players on the contract. So also, as a note of hilarity, the Saints are $54 million over the cap and don't have a quarterback. Yeah, it's a shame. The Bucs are $40 million over. Chargers are over. The Chiefs are 27 million under for those who are curious. So no, I think, look, it's one of these things where like, if you're the Bills, could you go out and get them? Sure. I mean, they could, they have all their picks. Like they could do it. The problem becomes, all right, so next year though, like then what happens? I mean, Allen's number right now is 16.3. Next year it's 39.8. So you're all of a sudden, your numbers are going up. Now they could move off a few guys if they want to and save some money, but not a ton. I mean, nobody that when I'm looking at their cap sheet that I would immediately say, oh, they're definitely going to cut this guy and save a bunch of money. In fact, I don't even see one guy on the team that I think they're going to cut. Now they could always extend stuff like that. They also have guys who are important players who you would think they'd want to bring back. I mean, Poyer is a free agent after this year, as an example. Yeah. So. You'll wonder Edmonds is a free agent after this year. So if they go out and get McCaffrey, they're going to have to do some cap gymnastics moving forward, where the Chiefs wouldn't have to because the Chiefs had the space.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. One of the guys in the chat, our guy Raymond Chandler says, "Do the Bills care about next year on this year?" Yeah, I think we're seeing that. We saw that with the Rams. Some of these teams are taking a YOLO approach or the fuck them picks approach.
Yeah, but now look at the Rams.
And look, as Brian Windhorst over at ESPN was fond of saying after the Cavs won the championship, winning a championship means never having to say you're sorry. So if the Bills, who probably feel like if they get by Kansas City, they've got a ring already and are trying to repeat this year, they may just say fuck it. Like we're gonna try to get the last the Infinity Stones, right, from Avengers.
They could. Listen, they absolutely could. I guess my point is, I think if you're them, though, whatever you have to give up, like the Panthers don't give a shit what you do after this year. They're going to want full value for them. So if you're the Bills, you're giving up a first-round pick for Christian McCaffrey, I believe. Because just like the Chiefs, they know you're going to be picking late in the round. So you're giving up a first and then some. Are you giving up a first for half a season of Christian McCaffrey? Yeah. I mean, I don't care what you're all in for. That's a lot.
It is. Yeah.
And on top of that, now you can't re-sign Poyer. You can't re-sign Edmonds. Right? I mean, you're letting all these guys walk out the door, or you're putting yourselves down the road in a cap hell. Like, look, I think it's funny. You'll lose perspective on this stuff because the year starts and the season takes over. And fair enough, right? That's the way it is. But coming into this year, we all felt, or at least most of us felt, this is kind of a retooling year for the Chiefs. Doesn't mean they're not going to compete. But if there's ever a year where the Bills are going to have their year and they're going to jump ahead of Kansas City, it's this year. Because after this, the Bills start losing guys and Allen gets expensive. If the Chiefs are ever going to lose this division, this year would be it. I mean, Denver loaded up. The Raiders loaded up. The Chargers loaded up. Now you look at these divisions and go, oh, my God. I mean, the Broncos might be screwed for 5 years.
Yeah.
The Chargers don't have a coach, and the Raiders are 1-4. So I actually, and the Chiefs next year have a ton of cap space. I said $27 million earlier. That doesn't even include when they cut Frank Clark till 46.
Right.
So, I mean, the Chiefs are going to have $50 million in cap space and 12 picks. And I can tell you this unequivocally from talking to people around them, I would expect them to be very aggressive next offseason. That was part of the reason they traded Tyreek Hill. I do not think they're going to sit around and roll that money over. Let's put it that way. So, look, I think if you're the Chiefs, like you're not as all in maybe as the Bills are this year. But also, like, let's say they beat San Francisco and you go into the bye 5-2. You're going to tell me that Brett Veach is sitting there thinking to himself, like, nah, I'm good. There's no way. Like, you're Patrick Mahomes. You're all in every year. You're all in every single year that he's on the team, especially when you're looking at the league going, who else is good? It's Buffalo and it's Philly, and then who? So, if you're the Chiefs, I think you are aggressive.
All right, as we move on here, and shout out to all our members. If you're interested in becoming an Arrowhead Addict podcast member, becoming a member of our community, hanging out with us in the members-only Discord, all that fun stuff, fantasy football leagues, all the things that we do, give it a look. There's a link in the description. This has been a point of discussion this week, so I'm just going to go ahead and lay it on you, Verderame. I think you probably already addressed it in a video or two. But, yes, Josh Allen surpassed Patrick Mahomes. He better than Patrick Mahomes right now?
I mean, listen, I think it's your definition of I tweeted about their careers and compared their careers, and people went insane. I mean, their career is just no contest. Mahomes is a much better player throughout the course of his career. Now, if you're talking about this year, just these 6 games, I think Allen's MVP of the league right now. I think Allen's had a better year than Mahomes. I don't think it's drastic. I mean, they've actually ironically thrown for the same amount of touchdowns, the same amount of picks. So I actually think in that regard, it's pretty close. Allen's thrown for, I think, like 250 more yards. I believe that's what it is. Completion percentages are essentially the same. QBRs are essentially the same. So I don't think it's a huge gulf. But if you ask me right now, hey, who would your MVP vote be? It would be Josh Allen. They're a game better. They beat the Chiefs. And I don't want to hear Chiefs fans say, well, Allen's got better weapons. Well, Mahomes has had better weapons at times in his career, too. So you can't go down that road. That being said, a lot of Bills fans made the point, well, don't talk about his whole career, which I think is kind of nonsense. Like, it's just whole career. It's kind of the point. Right. Or you want to compare the last 2 years. Well, the last 2 years, they've been about as even as you could be in total yardage, if you include Allen's rushing yardage. Few more touchdowns. Mahomes has fewer turnovers. But Mahomes has had more passing yardage, more touchdown passes, and fewer interceptions every single year of his career than Josh Allen. And he sent him home each of the last 2 years. Now, listen. Allen was magnificent last year. It was not his fault. He couldn't have played any better. It just so happens that he ran to Mahomes that night, who played every bit as well.
Yeah.
My test of this is always, if you said to me, life on the line, you got one game, who do you want? I would want Mahomes. And I think most people would say Mahomes. And that's not a criticism of Allen's incredible. I actually think the conversation is more interesting of who's the third best quarterback in football. Because the top 2 guys are so damn good that you could just put them up there and say, look, they're in their own stratosphere.
Right.
It's who's the third guy. That, to me, is the more interesting thing. Because the other 2 guys are so good, you could sit there and argue going back and forth. I think you're missing the point, right? Like, it's like these people that argue like LeBron and MJ and argue. Like I would take Michael Jordan, but you'd be a moron to say, oh, there's just no case for LeBron. Like,
Right.
of course there is, right? Those two are in the God tier. And then you get into like, okay, is it Herbert? Is it Burrow? Is it Brady? Rodgers still, if you want to, whatever, right? Whatever your argument is. Hurts, who's ascending rapidly here. So there's a lot of like that argument. But would I take Mahomes? I would, mostly because I feel like Mahomes is more consistent. But through these 6 games, I would slightly take Allen.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've seen a lot of Chiefs fans getting really upset that someone dare mention Allen is better than Mahomes. I think the whole argument is sort of silly at this point. They're 2 totally different quarterbacks. They're both excellent. You wait a long time to get a quarterback like Mahomes, and you get to live for a couple years there where he's unquestionably the best quarterback in the NFL. And that's nice. That's a nice feeling as a fan. And then somebody else comes along and, I don't think Allen is better, but I think what you got to do as a fan is just say, hey man, like just sit back and enjoy this.
Right.
Era
It doesn't
of Chiefs
matter.
football. Don't worry about Josh Allen or how good he is. You got Patrick Mahomes. He's just wows us every week with something that he does. He's a magnificent player. And then you get to see these 2 guys go to battle. And how much fun can that be?
Right. And Matt, who's got a great name in the chat here, says they can both be elite. People lose their mind comparing. Matt, I agree with you. Like, I've always kind of found it weird. Like, people are just always like, Brady's got to retire. Get Brady out of the league. I'm so dumb. Like, I get, look, if you're frustrated because your team can't get past him, like, I get it. You're watching the greatest player of all time in the sport. Like, enjoy it. Because one day he's going to be gone. Like, if you're a football fan, look, I get it if you're a Chiefs fan, like you'll lose in the Super Bowl. Or if you're a Bills fan, you hate him because he's in the division. Like, I get that. I mean, that's part of sports. I get it. Yeah. But like with Mahomes and Allen right now, I'm telling you guys right now, both fan bases, there is going to be a day where both these teams suck again. And you're going to look back and go, man, remember those games? Remember that night in January?
Yeah.
With 13 seconds? Remember the 20 times they played each other and how amazing that was? And I remember the 5 or 6 rings they won between them and how you knew every year, what that meant. I mean, think about how Pats and Colts fans probably feel right now, right? Like those games, there are certain teams that get so good that the games actually kind of live on in NFL history. The Chiefs and the Bills are at that point where those games, they're a life of their own. I mean, CBS made like a movie trailer for a Week 6 football game because they're so good. You're like, well, you got to see it. I will tell you, the NFL right now, they would pay any price to have those 2 teams in the AFC Championship game this year. It's like getting the Super Bowl twice.
Right.
I mean, everybody in the country will tune into that game. It's so much fun to watch. And like, look, as a Chiefs fan, you probably go, oh, God, if the Bills weren't there, they'd go to the Super Bowl every year. You know what? Yeah, maybe. But, they also beat the Bills last year. So they go to the Super Bowl. So things happen. I think sometimes you got to just enjoy it. You really do. And you know what, too, as a Chiefs fan? I think most Chiefs fans agree with this. At least it's Buffalo. It's a great fan base. They appreciate the hell out of the team. They've also struggled for years like the Chiefs did before Mahomes, finding that quarterback, going through heartbreak, right, with the 4 Super Bowls. At least it wasn't like the Patriots got him after Brady, or like, oh, the Steelers got him. And the Steelers have been good for 100 years running. Like, the same way I feel, honestly, about Burrow with the Bengals. Like, good for them, man. They've sucked forever.
Yeah, they're wearing bags on their heads, for God's sake.
At least it's his new blood. Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo got kicked around for years by Denver and by the Pats and by the Steelers. Like, at least it's teams that, you really know, like, truly are going to embrace these things and enjoy. And not, they didn't go to Miami so you can play in front of 10 fans or the Chargers. I mean, Herbert, my God, that guy. Somebody should take up a collection. Right. I mean, like, so at least you have that. I think that's the way I look at it. I really do.
Absolutely. With the game coming up, we're going to preview it in just a second. The Chiefs are right now -2.5 with a 48.5 over under for the Chiefs 49ers game. If you want to place a bet on this game, guys, and this is you have hours. It is 4:34 Central Time on Thursday, October 20th. This deal ends tonight at midnight. I've just been informed. It's a special promo from our friends at FanDuel, and it's for Arrowhead Addict viewers. The offer is you bet $5 if you're in a legal betting state. Bet $5, get $150 in free bets. Plus, it just kicked off a couple nights ago, 3 months of NBA League Pass when you use the code Arrowhead. Again, That's bet $5, get $150 in free bets, plus a 3-month subscription to NBA League Pass when you use the code Arrowhead. You'll receive an email with instructions to claim that free NBA League Pass in 24 hours. So, this will really help us out if you guys do this. I can't really stress that enough. The podcast, a bunch of you did it when we mentioned it last week. Some of you still haven't made your bet, so you got to do that. You got until the end of the night to make your bet, to lock all that in. But if you like this podcast, you like the work that we do here, and you want to support us, and you're interested in maybe making a friendly wager and getting some free league pass, take advantage of this. Go to FanDuel right now. Use the code Arrowhead and make you deposit $10 and place a $5 bet. Once you place that $5 bet, it's locked in. So maybe you can bet on the game tonight. Throw down that $5, get your free $150. All right. I got to read this. It's long. I'm sorry, but lawyers. This is important. So new customers only, 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text next step to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit KS Gambling Help in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY to 467-369 in New York, 1-800-889-9789 in Tennessee, 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming, or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. All right, everybody, thanks for bearing with us on that. Let's preview Chiefs 49ers. So Chiefs are 4-2. They're tied atop the AFC West with the Chargers, but they hold that tiebreaker. So if the season ended right now, the Chiefs would win the AFC West yet again. Chiefs had a little bit of a rough schedule, but they're hanging in. So let's get into this game. As I mentioned, the Chiefs are -2.5 on the road in San Francisco, 48.5 over under. I'll give you a quick primer. 49ers are 3-3. They have had the easiest schedule, maybe of anybody in the NFL. Listen to this. They've got wins versus the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Panthers. Losses against the Bears, the Broncos, and the Falcons. So the best team on that list is the Seahawks, surprisingly, this year. The Rams have been absolute garbage. The Panthers are a complete disaster. The Bears, Broncos, and the Falcons all stink. And they're a 500 ball club. They beat Seattle 27-7. They beat the Rams 24-9. They beat the Panthers 37-15. They lost the Bears in a monsoon, 19-10. They lost the Broncos in maybe the worst football game in NFL history, 11-10. And they lost to the Falcons 28-14. Combined record of the 49ers opponents this season, 14-22. Combined record of the Chiefs opponents this season, 18-16. All right, Verderame, what is this line of -2.5 tell us about this game? I would have thought it would have been maybe a little bit higher, but the Chiefs are on the road. How do you feel about this?
This game scares the hell out of me. This game, not because the Chiefs aren't better. The Chiefs are better. But styles make fights in the NFL. And the Niners are going to line up. By the way, the Niners, like magically today, are all healthy now. Everybody and their mother's practicing today, except maybe like Armstead's not going to play, and Kinlaw's on IR, and Mosley, the corner, he tore his ACL a couple weeks ago. So they're going to be down 3 starters defensively. I mean, they're not like all the way back, but Bosa is practicing. Jimmy Ward is practicing. He's going to have a club on his hand if he plays his broken hand, but he could play. Funga is practicing after being diagnosed with a concussion on Monday, or at least showing symptoms of a concussion on Monday. Charvarius Ward, it was unclear if he was going to practice. He was warming up on the side, so it's unclear if he got any opportunity to get in there, so on and so forth. The 49ers, this is the easiest game in the world to preview what they're going to try to do in this game. They're going to line up. They're going to have Kittle as an in blocker. They're going to put Juszczyk in there as a fullback, and they're basically going to say, we're putting 7 guys in, and we're going to just pound the ball at Jeff Wilson. Stop us. Yeah. And if the Chiefs can't stop them, the Chiefs are going to have about 22 minutes at time of possession, and they're going to have to score a lot of points in those 22 minutes because it's coming. Now, the flip side of that is if the Chiefs can stop the run, then they can get off the field. Then I think the Niners have a really rough day. because I do not think they can cover the Chiefs. They're missing Mosley. He's out for the year. Charvarius Ward, it's unclear if he's going to play. If he does, he's clearing out 100% with the groin. They look like they might have a Funga, which is big. He's a second-year safety. He's excellent. Jimmy Ward is maybe going to be out there, but Jimmy Ward is going to be very compromised with basically one hand. They have awesome linebackers. They do not have a great defensive line with everybody out except for Bosa. Bosa's awesome, but Bosa's about it. So you start looking at this thing and going, okay, I think if the Chiefs can get up in the game and force Jimmy Garoppolo to have to throw the ball, they're probably in pretty good shape. Because for all the talk about how the weapons on the Niners are great, Deebo Samuel's played in every game this year. He's on pace for 977 receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk has played every game this year. He's on pace for about 900 receiving yards. George Kittle's played 4 games this year. He's averaging 45 yards a game. And they have nobody else even worth mentioning. Juwan Jennings just played 6 games with 156 yards. Like, they just nobody. They don't have a back that they throw the ball to. Look, this is just not a team that passing wise is going to scare the hell out of you. Jimmy Garoppolo does not throw the ball down the field. Okay, he just does not do it. They have had all year long 2 plays over 40 yards in the passing game. One of which was a slant to Deebo Samuel on Monday Night Football against the Rams, where he broke about 9 tackles and ran 57 yards for a touchdown. So this is one game. If I am the Chiefs, I am 100% playing single high safety in this game and just saying, look, I'm stacking the box. I am taking away the run game as much as humanly possible. I will live with the occasional 20-yard gain by Deebo or George Kittle. And I am going to say, basically, I'm getting you into longer down and distances. If you listen to Steve Spagnuolo's presser today, he said his number one thing for this defense to get a better pass rush, to get into longer third downs. He also said that last week they were not concerned at all if the Bills ran the football. He just came right out and was like, we knew they were going to run the ball against us. We were playing that way. So my question for the Chiefs is, what does this look more like? The Josh Jacobs game or a Jonathan Taylor game? Now, obviously, the lines are, the Niners line is better than either one of those two teams, but the running backs are also better on those two teams than the Niners. And with the Raiders, you feared them throwing the ball. You don't fear, I don't believe, the Niners throwing the ball over the lot. So, kind of my thoughts on the game.
Yeah, so in this one, and by the way, in the injury report for the Chiefs came out for Thursday, Mike Dana, who has a calf injury, who did not practice on Wednesday, was limited, so he may be trending towards playing. Sometimes these guys get a little bit of a rest day on Wednesdays. Yep. Rashad Fenton, with this hamstring injury, did not practice again. He is probably trending towards not playing, it would appear. Joe Tooney did not practice on Wednesday, was limited today, so that's good with the ankle injury. Brian Cook, who was coming off the concussion, was limited on Wednesday, full participant today. And then everybody else on the injury report, L'Jarius Sneed, Harrison Bucker, McCole Hardman, and Trey Smith, all full participants all week. So that's good news for them. Trent McDuffie, obviously, probably trending to play, not on the injury report because he's not been activated, correct, Verderame?
Right.
Officially.
They don't have to list him if he's not activated.
Yeah. But it sounds like he'll play probably. It sounds like he was close to playing last week. Yep. Chiefs wanted to give him another week. So that's good with the injury to Fenton. It'll be good to get McDuffie back out there, even though he's essentially going to be playing in his first game ever.
They're going to need him. I mean, at some point here, look, the one thing about this game that's important, like it's a non-conference game, but the Chargers, even though I think the Chargers stink comparatively to what everybody thought they were going to be, I don't think they stink overall. I think they stink compared to what everybody was like, oh my God, this team's going to be great. Well, as it turns out, Brandon Staley can't coach. So I don't think they're going to be a huge threat in the AFC West. I actually, by the way, think I picked them to flat out lose to Seattle this weekend. Keenan Allen basically talked about the fact that he doesn't think he's going to play this week because they have a bye the same week the Chiefs do.
Yeah.
I think Seattle's just going to outscore them. I really do. I think Seattle. One thing about the Seahawks, much like the Niners, if they can run the ball on you, it's coming. They are just going to line up and do it, and the Chargers can't stop anybody from running the football.
Yeah.
You think the Chiefs' defense is bad against the run? Go watch some Chargers tape. The Chargers basically hold hands and just skip down the field with them. They just run them into the end zone. It's some of the worst run defense you'll ever see. I think in this game, look, the Chiefs, if you win this game, you're 5-2, you're going into the bye. Assuming they don't have a catastrophic injury or anything. Okay. Their schedule after the bye is much easier. Like they really like. I hate doing this thing where like you count wins because you just don't. I mean, they should have beat the Colts 100 times out of 100 and they lost to them, so you can't do that. But I would argue the Chiefs are significant favorites in 8 of their last 10 games. And the only 2 I'm not putting on that list are at the Chargers and at the Bengals, and they might be favorites in those games. So, it's not unreasonable to sit there and go, yeah, the Chiefs are probably 8-2 after the bye. I mean, even if you factor in they lose a game, they shouldn't. They split those other games. Like, I think the Chiefs are probably, even if they lose to the Niners, like a 12-win team. And I think it's enough to win the division. But this game's important because if you win this game, you keep at least pressure on Buffalo as far as being a 1 seed. I don't think they're going to catch Buffalo. And I'm not, listen, you never root for an injury. I'm just saying, it's football. It happens. Like guys get hurt. You never know if first of all, you never know what if Mahomes were to go down with an ankle injury for a couple of weeks and you need to have a cushion. What if Allen goes down with an ankle injury for a couple of weeks and all of a sudden, maybe the Bills, instead of going 3-0, go 1-2 in that stretch, right? Like you want to keep tabs, and teams lose games you're not expecting them to lose. I mean, the Bills lost to Jacksonville last year. The Chiefs lost to the Colts this year. It happens. This is an important game. I also think you don't want to be going on a 2-game losing streak going into your bye week. Like you want to just go out there. I expect it to be a tough game. I don't think that they're going to have an easy time of it in San Francisco. I also think the Chiefs are the better team. And if the Chiefs go out there and they play a good game and they execute, they'll win this game. The question with the Chiefs, as always, is will they execute? Will we get a jet sweep with Trey Smith on 3rd and 11? God only knows. All in play. And so that's the fear you have.
So you've already talked about how you think the 49ers will attack the Chiefs defense. And I think you're probably right. I think they're going to look really hard at that Raiders game and what they did with Josh Jacobs and the way that, they took their opportunistic deep shots, managed the clock, ran down the Chiefs' throat. The good news is the Chiefs have some reinforcements coming. They're going to get Trent McDuffie back. And they're going to allegedly Willie Gay Jr. back. His suspension has been lifted. He's back. Now, the Chiefs have been asked about whether or not he's going to play, and they've said, we'll see. But, yeah, his ass is going to be out there. With all due respect to Darius Harris, who has been fantastic and should continue.
He's playing too because they're going to be in base.
Yeah.
All game. So settle in. He and Chanel are going to be playing plenty.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the linebackers have done a nice job, but when Willie Gay Jr. and I've seen. Did you happen to see the Nick Bolton slander on Twitter this week?
Could you miss it?
Yeah. What's your take on that? What I was thinking when I was seeing it was, man, is nobody taking into account the fact that he doesn't have his mate there next to him, Willie Gay Jr., that he's taken on more responsibility than before. And those two are great compliments to one another.
I think there's truth in it. I also think there is missed nuance in it. So basically that should be the slogan of Twitter.
Yeah. Right.
Look, I think there have been too many plays in the last few weeks, especially where Bolton is 8 yards downfield and tackles a guy. And people get into this whole like, well, he had 12 tackles. I mean, that's great. But if you're 8 yards down the field on a run, who cares? I think, though, if you watch the film of it, like Bolton has been hesitant a little bit more than I'd like him to be to hit the hole and get downhill. I also think at the same point, part of this is, all right, a little bit of it's really gay. Guys, turn on the film if you have the access to it. Can anybody defeat a block on the defensive line ever? Right. I mean, do you ever have that game as a kid? I used this, by the way, in the earlier show of Ben Heisel, so forgive me if you're listening to this. You already know where I'm going. You ever play the game where you plug in the magnetic football field and it like rattles?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's the Chiefs defensive line trying to escape a block. It's just static, just all the way across the field. It's like no ability whatsoever to shed and make a play unless you're Chris Jones. Yeah. Saunders, by the way, actually has been by a mile like the second best guy in this regard. But hey, got to play Derek Nottie, who, listen, Derek Nottie's had a pretty good first contract with the Chiefs. He has not been good this year. He's not been good. I don't know if it's because he's not picking up Joe Cullen's, disciplines as much or whatever the case is. Chris Jones is the only guy who's getting in there and making plays consistent. Now, Karlaftis has done a good job on the edge, like holding the edge. But in terms of guys just defeating blocks and making plays at the line, and when you're not doing that, your linebackers are going to struggle. I mean, these guys are going to get up to the second level. They're going to climb, and you're screwed. Yeah. That's just – now, I will say in this game specifically, to the point about Bolton, we've talked a lot about the Chiefs in the last couple of days. Talking about every week, but in the last couple of days, especially about like, well, offensively, do they have an identity? Do they know what they are? What do they do? I think the Chiefs have an identity. I actually think they found it against Buffalo. Their identity is to blitz the living hell out of you because they're really good at it. Like, that is one thing with the Chiefs. They might be the best blitzing team in the NFL. And I don't mean in terms of like the amount of blitzes, because the Giants are going to blitz more than anybody with Martindale. I mean in the effectiveness. You know, there were times it felt like last year where the Chiefs tried to blitz and it didn't matter, like they just couldn't get home.
Yeah.
Spagnuolo's been in his bag, as the kids say this year, with their scheming of blitzes. They get home constantly. It feels like they almost always get home. Like when they blitz now, they're in immediately. I think part of that is Snead basically being exclusively in the slot. Bolton's a very good blitzer. Gay is a very good blitzer. Justin Reed is a very good blitzer. They bring major heat. And I thought in that game against Buffalo, I got to tell you, that was the one thing that came out of that game that as a Chiefs, fan, as whatever, and even just as an analyst, as I'm biased looking at the game, Allen had a really hard time against that blitz. And most of his success, his noted success, was one-on-one throws, 50-50 balls down the field against Joshua Williams. If Trent McDuffie's in the game, that becomes a lot less of an opportunity, right? I mean, I think, not to say you could never hit one. He's a great player. But I think if the Chiefs see the Bills again, I would almost bet they will blitz like you can't even – like they will blitz like more than half the plays. They will just blitz and blitz and blitz and blitz. They're good at it. And they're at their best when they're in man coverage. That is one thing I want to see the Chiefs do in this game against the Niners. Run blitz, play your corners in man, play a single high safety, and say, look, if Deebo Samuel beats us once for 40 yards, fine. If George Kittle has 2 catches for 40 yards, fine. Blitz. Because you run blitz, you take away the ability. And one thing with Garoppolo, he will throw the ball to the other team. Like, if you get him under pressure, he will just whale the ball out of there.
Does not do well with the pressure.
He's not mobile. He's run for 18 yards this season. I have great respect for the 49ers. And I think the Niners can win this game. Niners all damn day jumps in and says, take that back. Hey, listen, the Niners can win this game. I think if you're the Chiefs, the path to winning it is to just aggressively blitz and say, look, you're not running the ball. If you're going to beat us, it's going to be with Jimmy Garoppolo making throws under pressure into tight windows. And if he can do that, hey, you tip your cap, you move on.
Yeah.
But I think that's the Chiefs' identity moving forward. It's just the Chiefs used to do it, by the way, all the time in the 90s with Gunther Cunningham. And I mean, they would just bring it. And they put Hasty and Dale Carter on the corners and said, go ahead. And they were great at it. I think that's what this defense ought to be this year.
Well, as far as the offense goes at attacking this 49ers defense, look, these guys are pretty good. They've obviously Bosa seems like he's on track to play. Feels a lot like the Raiders game to me. Again, like where the Chiefs struggle with a great pass rusher. How do they combat that this time against the 49ers?
Well, for starters, it'd be nice if the tackles understand when they have leverage. That'd be good. Because 2 times in a row now, look, it's Von Miller and Max Crosby. Like, I'm being tongue-in-cheek a little bit with this. Like, Andrew Wiley, if you're going to put him in those spots, like, he's going to get got occasionally. Most players are. I actually think he's been better than people think. I think Brown's been a bigger issue than Wiley has this year. I think if you're the Chiefs, you have to understand one thing in this game. Like, Bosa is the guy that you have to deal with defensively. Like, Bosa's missed a game and a half, and he still has 6 sacks this year. Okay? Now, Ekubom is a DN for them. He has 3.5 sacks. Omenahu also has 3 sacks. Ekubom is coming off of an Achilles injury. Not a torn Achilles, but his Achilles is flared up. It's been painful for him. He's practicing this week, but it's unclear if he's going to play. My guess is he would. You respect Ekubom and Omenahu. You also understand, and by the way, Drake Jackson, who's a rookie, who also has 3 sacks. So it's not the earlier I said, look, it's Bosa and nobody else. That was unfair. I shouldn't have said that because that's not fair to them. The Niners have 23 sacks this year. It's a very good front. What I should say is Bosa has to be your top priority. And I think if he's your top priority and you handle him to any extent here, like you're probably in pretty good shape. It's not that those other guys can't beat you. They certainly can. But I also would point out, look, as you mentioned the schedule, the Niners have played teams this year that just can't block. I mean, the Rams are a disaster.
And no quarterbacks.
That's not to take anything away from what San Francisco's done. But if you go back and look, so just in that Rams game alone, the Niners had, just want to make sure I'm right with this. The Niners had 7 of their sacks against the Rams in that game. Seattle can't block at all, even though Geno Smith's played really well. They had a couple sacks there. This is a team in the Niners. I have a ton of respect for them. But yes, I mean, this is a massive step up in class. Like they sacked Mayfield 6 times. So like of those 23 sacks, 13 of them came against the Panthers and the Rams.
Right.
In the other 4 games, he has 10 sacks, which is not bad. But it's not like, oh my God, how are you going to block them? You start with Bosa and you work your way out.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the best team by a mile that the 49ers have faced all year. Their defense is still really good. They're number 1 in the NFL in yards allowed. But they have also played, I mean, these offense, Justin Fields.
Really bad offenses.
Awful, right? Matt Stafford, great quarterback, terrible this year. The Falcons, I don't even know who the hell's throwing the ball for them. Oh, it's Mariota. Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Like, the best quarterback that they have faced all year, based on this year, is Geno Smith.
So a lot of people will tell you that yards per play is the best metric of offenses, which I think is true and not true because there's a lot of garbage time stuff that can get filtered in there. And look, there's no stat that's perfect. But if you go off of that line of thinking, okay, if you just say, okay, that's how you're going to rate these offenses. So the Niners, by the way, the Chiefs are 6th in that metric. The Niners are 10th. So both solid. Seattle is 3rd. Seattle's 3rd. So that's by a mile the best offense that the Niners have faced. Now, again, you understand it's a little bit of a different offense in Kansas City, but the point still stands. Okay. Now, after that, you start going down the list. Atlanta's 14th, average. The Bears somehow are 18th, which I can't even believe that. But that's true. Then you keep going. The Rams are 25th, tied with Houston. And then you get to Carolina, who's at 30th. So, and then if you start looking at like passing offenses, I mean, the Bears are 32nd. Actually, here, let me go by yards per attempt here. So if you start looking at passing offenses, Seattle's 5th. The Bears are 7th. That's also because the Bears are throwing the ball like 115 times all year. But there's just bad offenses. Like if you start looking at this, the Rams can't protect. The Seahawks struggle to protect. It's just a who's who. I could run down a million stats here, but yes, the point stands that the Niners are going to be challenged in a way defensively this game. They have not been challenged yet this year.
Yeah,
I would expect that the Chiefs will score in their high 20s, and the Niners. Listen, the Niners to win this game are probably going to have to get to 27, 30. They do it, they probably win, but I think that's where they have to get to win the game.
It's going to be an interesting game. Shout out to a couple of people in the chat. I appreciate you. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, if you could hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it. Matt Riley says, cheers, fellas. Enjoying vacation with a KC beer down here in Southwest Missouri. Hey, Matt, enjoy that vacation, brother. You earned it. If you got some time, take a picture of that beer and send it to KC Beer on Twitter at KC Beer Co. And then shout out to Armando. This is a great show. A Buffalo fan, but the show is fire. Appreciate you, man. Always appreciate when the Bills fans come in to check things out and are cool. And just shout out to everybody else who's watching. Our guy Flapjack, of course, best damn podcast group ever. Appreciate you, sir. Niners all damn day says revenge game for Charvarius Ward. That's what we've all been waiting for, is the Charvarius Ward revenge game.
By the way, Action Jackson made a point. Who is our resident, like he's our Bills fan that's here all the time. Says, how dare you slander Dangerous and Danger Russ and the Broncos high flying offense? That's right. The Broncos stink so bad, I literally forgot to even mention where they ranked as I was going through those teams. Like the Broncos, by the way, are dead last in just about every offensive category. So just pencil them in for like 30 seconds. I don't know if you're a Niners fan, you have to be physically ill losing that team. I don't even know how it's possible. That team is. By the way, the Jets. I would bet a good amount of money the Jets will go in there and win this weekend. The Jets are confident as hell. They feel great about themselves. And Denver is just – did you see that Subway commercial with Russell Wilson?
No.
Oh, man. Dude, it's an all-timer.
I saw the quote about him healing fast and having Wolverine blood. Did you see that
Wolverine blood? Yeah,
I thought it was a parody.
By the way, okay, and I'm not ripping the reporter who reported this, but I couldn't help but laugh. Do you see the report? I don't even say who it was. The report of the whole thing about his hamstring. He's like, it's a real injury, and he's in real pain. Like, has it ever been reported like that ever in the history of injuries?
Right.
It's a real injury, and he's in real pain. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I would like, aren't we supposed to assume it's like that? It just goes to
The fake
show,
injury.
like, it just goes to show that nobody thinks he's actually hurt. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't know if he's hurt or not. Okay. But it clearly, like, people are like sitting there kind of, I think, with their heads cocked a little bit, like, okay, what every time he has a bad game in prime time, now he's got like another injury.
Yeah.
It's bad. Denver is a disaster. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
It's not good.
yeah, I mean, I'm personally enjoying it.
All right, let's get to our keys of the game. What's the key for you if the Chiefs want to win this
They have
game?
to stop the run. They have and look, you're never going to totally, just bog down the Niners rushing. It's too good. Like, the Niners, they're one of the more well-designed run games in the league. Jeff Wilson is a guy who can break off big runs. He's not like carry to carry. If you watch him, he's not incredible, but he has the capability of just ripping off a 40-yarder. With Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey in there, they've got great tackles. The interior, Banks has been a really nice surprise for them in the interior after losing Lake and Tomlinson and Alex Mack this offseason. The interior is a little weaker than the exterior, but it's a good front. Juszczyk, for my money, is the best fullback in football. And then you have Kittle, who serves as essentially a sixth offensive lineman. So you better come with it if you're Kansas City's front, or you're going to be just on the ground getting run over. I think that's got to be in this game. If you're the Chiefs, and I will tell you right now, I say this every week with the Chiefs, but it deserves to be resaid. They have to tackle in this game. If they don't tackle Deebo Samuel, he's gone. That guy is a truck coming downhill. So I think you got to be able to stack the box a little, stop the run, force Garoppolo to throw the ball in some longer down and distances, get some pressure. If the Chiefs can slow down the run, I think they actually match up really well passing-wise. If they can't, then I think it becomes a very long afternoon, and it becomes a very close game, and it becomes who makes a mistake or who makes one big play.
Yeah, 49ers, anytime you have a good defense in the NFL, you can make things ugly, especially if you're at home. So the Chiefs are going to be careful. For me, it's execute your offense early if you're Kansas City. As you pointed out, getting a lead for Kansas City is going to make things a little bit easier on them defensively. If they come out and they're flat, like they have been in the past in games where they haven't played well, they need to come out and play like they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a similar team with a really good defense that we were concerned about. And I actually picked the Chiefs to lose that game. The Chiefs came out, they executed from the off, jumped all over the Bucs and never looked back. That's the way they need to play against this 49ers team, because if they let them in, they'll make a game of it.
They better be ready, because the Chiefs after that game talked about how much it meant to them to get revenge. Well, guess what? The Niners lost to you in the Super Bowl a few years ago.
Right.
They're going to want revenge. So you better be prepared for this game. Look, the one obvious thing that we haven't even said, I think mostly because it's just obvious. The big advantage the Chiefs have in this game is on their center. I mean, the Chiefs have, in my opinion, the best quarterback in football, certainly a top 2 quarterback. Okay. I mean, Garoppolo's, I don't know, average 16, 17, somewhere in there. Like, that is to me, that's where you got to look at this game and go, look, if you're the Chiefs, you make it about that. Right? I mean, that's what you have to do in this game. Because if you make it about that, you win. They're just so much better at the most important position on the field, you win the game.
Yeah.
If the Niners can run the ball like crazy, now it's not about that. And then it changes the whole thing. And then everything changes. I like Action Jackson's point here, the old prop bet here. What's the fewest passing yards ever recorded in a game? Danger Russ and Zach Wilson are hunting for that record this weekend. You know what? I'm going to look that up, actually. I don't know if you're on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter. I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to tweet that out, and I'm going to credit you for it, because that's funny. That is hilarious. I'd have to look, but we could definitely see a stat line where you're just like, oh, my God. Like, Wilson's thrown for 84 yards on 27 attempts, and the other Wilson is thrown for, 92 yards on 20 attempts. I mean, that's in play. That's a good call.
Yeah, good teams to be running backs on. All right, let's we're going to get you our final score predictions for this weekend's game. But before we do that, we got to do some quick listener reviews. If you like this podcast and you want to leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts, it really helps more people find the show. So leave us that 5-star review over there if you haven't done it yet. Even if you have, leave us a written review and ask us a question. We'll answer it on the podcast. We're going to do some of that right now. from Best Chiefs Podcast from, oh geez, I don't know how to read this. 1UVTHUHUN from October 13th says, there can be only one, and this podcast is it. My only question, out of the entire Arrowhead Addict crew, who can throw the pigskin the furthest? That's a really good one. It's not me. I'm terrible at throwing a football. I was a baseball player, so I'll bow out of this right now. What about you, Verderame? You and I have tossed pigskin around the Arrowhead parking lot a little bit. You got a pretty good arm.
We have. I'm gonna. I don't know. I can't ask Sterling. Sterling, I feel like is a pretty decent athlete. So, I mean, NFL football is a lot bigger than people think.
Yeah, it is.
Like NFL football is. I have pretty big hands, and it's hard to control the ball. Like, it truly is. I'll go ahead and not be bashful and say me, just because I'm definitely I think the bigger of the four of us. So I think I'll take that. I would think with like a college size ball, I don't know. I could maybe throw the ball 45 yards, something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm hilariously wrong. And if I threw the ball, maybe I throw like 25. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm kind of ballparking it. Maybe 40. Yeah. I'll say me, but I also it's a complete shot in the dark here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to we'll have to have the Arrowhead Addict podcast combine at some point. I'm gonna go with Adam Best is really tall, lengthy guy. Like Sterling, obviously, he's a golfer. He's out there. He's he's stretched out, limber. I'm gonna go with Matt Connor. I bet it's Matt Connor. I bet he's got a sneaky strong arm.
Okay, he could.
Yeah. So we'll have to all get together maybe sometime soon in Kansas City for the Arrowhead Addict podcast combine. Next up is UK Badger 91 says, a must for all Chiefs fans. Being a Chiefs fan in the UK can be hard to keep up to date with all the ongoings in Chiefs Kingdom. But with this station, make sure I'm up to date. The shows are informative and they are extremely hilarious. Would highly recommend. Special shout out for Matt Verderame. His insights, views, and rants are a great listen. Yeah, amen to that. Appreciate the reviews, guys. You're awesome. Leave us a 5-star review over there, and we'll read yours on the podcast. All right, let's get into our final score predictions for this weekend. I think I went first last weekend, so you can kick us off, Verderame.
Yeah, I struggle with this. I don't know how this game's going to play out. I think in the end, the Chiefs find a way. I trust that the quarterback advantage probably makes the difference in the end of the game. Certainly, it's reasonable if you want to say, "Hey, look, I'm taking the Niners." But I think it's one of these things where the Chiefs know you got to curtail the run here. I mean, I cannot imagine that Spagnuolo, who I like maybe more than some here, I can't imagine that Steve Spagnuolo goes into this game and goes, "Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're going to let them just run all over us." I think the Niners are still going to get theirs. They're a very good team. I had this game 27. Actually, you know what? Because of some of the guys in defense come back for the Niners, I'm looking at my picks right now. I picked 27-23. I'm actually going to lower that a little because the Niners are getting healthier. I'll say it's like 24-20, Kansas City. I think it's close. I don't think it's even one of these like, oh, the Niners got a garbage time. I think it's close. I think they're sweating this out for a full 60. But I think Kansas City will make enough plays with Mahomes against a banged up secondary to find a way to win the game.
All right. So you think the Chiefs cover? Look, I think the Chiefs, they're coming off a loss, and I think that is bad news for the 49ers. They came out on fire following their loss to the Colts, steamrolled the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 49ers obviously have a terrific defense. They have a smart head coach. San Francisco, they were a little banged up. Sounds like they're getting healthy. I think Shanahan's got them ready to play. But I just think the Chiefs are going to end up having too much firepower offensively and for the 49ers to hang in this one. So it might be close early, but I think Casey gets back in the win column. I got a Chiefs 31, 49ers 21. I think it matters that Kansas City's coming off a loss to the Bills. I think it matters. It's going to matter on how they play. And I think it's going to matter that they're getting Trent McDuffie back and they're getting Willie Gay Jr. back and they're getting some guys.
That matters.
Yeah. That's
also, by the way, matters if Brian Cook is healthy. Because Brian Cook played really well for them. Like Brian Cook, I mentioned, and listen, the Bills fans in here, I think will understand this because they see me and they're used to me. I tweeted out the other day, I was like, look, both teams were missing guys that mattered in that game. Tre'Davious White is a great player. Okay, he wasn't there. And the Chiefs were missing McDuffie and Gay and Fenton and Cook. And Bills fans just furious. They're like, how could you compare Tre'Davious White to him? I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, Tre'Davious White is the best player of those guys, but like when you're missing, say whatever you want about Fenton, when you're missing 4 guys who play starter snaps for you, like it matters. So getting those guys back, at least with 3 of those guys back, it definitely helps. I think, again, this game comes down to if the Niners can run the ball really effectively, they will have a shot to win this game. If the Chiefs hold them to an ineffective running game, and it becomes one of these things where Garoppolo's got to beat him with his arm, then I think this game becomes a game the Chiefs really want to play. So we'll see. But I think it's a good game. I think it's a tough game. I think Kansas City wins close. And I got to tell you, if you're the Chiefs, you don't care how you win. You just want to win and get to 5-2 and get out of there. Because after this, for those unaware, bye week after the Niners game, and then they come home, they play the Titans on Sunday Night Football, and they play Jacksonville, and then they play the Chargers, and they come home and play the Rams. 3 of the next 4 at home after this Niners game, and they should absolutely beat the hell out of those 3 teams at home. I mean, if they don't, I will be genuinely concerned. And the Chargers game, while it's on the road, you're not going to see Bosa. Slater's out for the year. I mean, look, you could potentially, depending, if you win these next 3 games, okay, and then you go play the Chargers, you win that game, you basically put the division on ice.
Yeah.
So you got, I mean, this next month for the Chiefs here is huge. It really is. Then set up the end of the season.
Yeah. It's going to be a really interesting stretch here. The Chiefs need this one. They need this one to stay on top in the AFC West and to get right going into the bye week. Okay. So we got to do this now. It's time for a serial review. If you're new to this podcast, this is a serial podcast in which we sometimes talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. So I got a couple things here. So first, I wanted to show off this bowl that my aunt got me. I've talked about it on the podcast. This thing's pretty incredible. So if you like cereal, this bowl is designed. You can see the inside of it here. Up here is where you pour in your cereal. And then there's this ramp right here that you can push your cereal around and down into the milk so that it doesn't get soggy. It's absolutely incredible. I'm eating out of this thing every day. It's a good, solidly constructed bowl. It's even got like a little under here. You walk around, you pour your cereal. You're not sitting at the kitchen table eating your cereal. You go and sit in front of the TV. It's even got this down here. You can kind of hold on and grab onto the bowl and eat. It's fantastic. Highly recommend. Look this thing up. I don't know what the hell it's called, but it's got little grippers on the bottom. Premium cereal bowl right here. All right, Jaws cereal. Didn't know this existed until yesterday when it showed up on my front door. All right. Your flavors here are cocoa, honey, caramel, and multigrain cereal. So it's got different shapes. All right. See there, you get this. That's right, Niners all damn day. This is what we do here. I'm pulling out some of the, first of all, the box. If you find this in the UK, I'll ask my sister where she got it. It looks like it's made, Universal obviously is a Jaws. Jaws is a Universal thing. If you like cereal or even if you like movies, I would consider ordering this just as a collector's item because you can't get it in the States. And it's really fucking cool. Like it's a great box. The feeding time on it is hilarious. So that's sort of the review of the box. It's worth a grab. So I poured this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do we got here? We got these different shapes. So I wanted to ask your opinion on this, Verderame.
Yeah.
Is this a man or is this a kraken? Look at this. Can you see this thing here?
Yes.
I think it's a kraken because of like the crown thing.
It might be.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, are the figures in the cereal, are they like people?
No, there's no people. I thought, well,
that would be amazing.
Yeah. At first I thought, because this kind of looks like a little like muscly man, if you look at it, he's all, but I think it's a kraken. And then it's got the sharks, right? The little shark cereal. There's one. And then there's a chocolate one here. And then it has these starfish in there as well. So I did the dry test. The dry test was okay. You get like Cocoa Puffs from the chocolate ones.
Okay.
But what's interesting here is it's cocoa, honey, and caramel flavor. So this is the most surprising thing. When I got it in milk and I started eating it, it's really good. It's got salt. Like that caramel, it's like salted caramel, which I don't think I've ever tasted on cereal before. is like an aggressive salt flavor, not like gross, but like if you've ever had salted caramel, anything.
Yeah.
That's what comes through in like these pieces right here.
Nice.
So you're getting like a little bit of Cocoa Puffs in some bite. Then you're getting this really interesting salted caramel flavor. So I liked it. As you know, on this podcast, we do the CT Crunch scale from 0 CT Crunch, because CT Crunch is the GOAT cereal.
Yep.
So 0 CT Crunches to 5, being, 5 would basically be CT Crunch level. I'm going to give it 3.5 CT Crunches. Not quite a 4. It's lacking a little bit of punch, but the salted caramel thing is really what pushed it over the edge for me. I was like, shit, this is interesting. This is an interesting cereal. And then of course, like, I'm just going to hang on to the box because
I have to.
Yeah. I'm a horror fan. I'm a cereal fan. This is pretty much like the greatest thing I've ever seen. And shout out to
the super chat for the cinnamon toast crunch. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. And shout out to my sister Megan, who sent this to me. That came from the UK. It was like, I think the box was like $10 and the shipping was $30. So that's love right there. That's family. It really is. $40 box of cereal, but I opened it immediately and had a bowl.
Now I went to the supermarket this morning. Now I got to go back because the other day I got Cocoa. All right, Cocoa Puffs. I got Count Chocula. I'm actually going to go to Target and ask them if they what would a pallet cost me? I'm dead serious.
Wholesale?
Because they're going to screw me, and this is going to go away in like a week and a half.
Yep.
What if I got plenty of room in the basement? Like what if I were to buy a pallet of Count Chocula and then hawk it for double the price? Like keep half of myself and then just jack the price up on these dopes who didn't go get a pallet.
It's on the black market.
That's right.
Yeah, you're out in the alley, and you can actually wear the Count Chocula cloak, and you open it up, and you got.
I had somebody who was a fan of the podcast send me a Count Chocula T-shirt.
No shit.
Oh yeah.
Somebody sent you a Count Chocula T-shirt?
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Nice handwritten note, the whole deal. Oh yeah.
This is. I'm a little offended. Nobody's ever sent me anything.
Came with a box of Mahomes Magic Crunch. Yeah.
All right, now I'm really mad. You got Mahomes Magic Crunch.
It came with a very nice letter. Still got it in my desk drawer. Very nice. Won't say the man's name in case he'd be embarrassed or whatnot, but very nice. Yeah. Oh yeah. Came with the whole deal. It's like a care package. It's beautiful.
I see where I stand with you guys. We see how the podcast rankings are shaking out here.
I mean, listen, Chris Albright is in the chat right now. That man, he sent me cereal before. So we're,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So the Jaws cereal, great. See if you can find it, and get yourself a box. Recommend. And of course, it's Count Chocula season, so to be getting Jaws cereal, I'm a big horror fan. I'm just beside myself. It's just awesome. The feeding time is what just sent me.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I totally agree. That's the best part.
Yeah, absolutely the best part. Super simple box. So, all right, Verderame, we got to get out of here, man. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. It's like an old school Alan and Verderame podcast. I haven't had one of these in a while. All right, everybody, listen. So on Sunday, it is a 3:25 kick. So no pregame show for Chiefs 49ers. We'll probably jump in for halftime, break it down. And then, we'll do the post-game show. So make sure you're back here at the Arrowhead Addict podcast. How do people send cereal, Kale? I guess they DM us on Twitter.
No, it was actually funny. Real quick, I actually got an email because in my Twitter feed, if you for people that want to email me or whatever, it has my agent's email, and so he emailed my agent, and my agent emailed me. It was like, hey. I don't know what to do with this, but somebody wants to send you cereal. And I was like, send them through, give them the address.
Yeah.
And so she was like, okay. And I had to call her and explain to her what the story was, and she thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Probably thought it was nuts, thought it was funny. So yes. Hey, listen, hey, cereal, bring it in. My father was like, you gotta be careful. Somebody might try to poison you. I'm like, let him do it. I don't work anymore. That's fine.
I thought for sure you were going to get what were they sent? What's the white powder they were sending it? Anthrax.
Yeah, anthrax. Listen, it could be a little anthrax. Keeps you honest.
Yeah, one of those Raiders fans going to get out of prison and finish.
I was going to say they can't mail from prison. I'm not worried about it. If I get a license plate in the mail, I know it's from a Raiders fan.
Right.
But and if I get a box that's covered in tears, it's a Broncos fan.
Right. So and if you get nothing,
it's a Chargers fan. Right, you're right. Those people don't exist. By the way, we close right here. On Monday Night Football, and they played Denver, there were more empty seats in that stadium than there were Chargers fans. The team's 4-2.
Right.
There's nobody there. Like I was like, look, I don't know the exact capacity of SoFi Stadium off the top of my head. Although you and I have been there, it's a huge stadium. Okay. The Chiefs play there 3 weeks after their bye. Okay, the capacity is 70,000. If I gave you an over-under number of 40,000 Chiefs fans, would you take the over or the under?
Over.
So would I. Honest to God, I think that place is going to be 3-1.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's bad.
There's no fans. I've never seen it like that. Even the Rams have like some fans at these games.
Right.
Chargers fans, it's like, oh, we couldn't sell the other team. Well, then I guess they're empty seats. That's it.
It's not good. This is the organization who once invited Chiefs fans in a group rate, emailed me, invited Chiefs fans to come out when they were in San Diego. And then the Chargers had to have a meeting about it. And then one of the ownership guys released a statement and was like, yeah, this one hurt. And it was my article. Proudest moment as a Chiefs fan. Did some radio hits about it. Was great. All right, everybody. Listen, last thing before we go. At midnight tonight, this expires. FanDuel.
Yeah.
Use the code Arrowhead if you want to support the podcast. If you just want to get this great deal, this great promo that they're offering, bet $5, get $150 in free bets, plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. Now's the time. You got to do it right now. Use that code Arrowhead. Help us out. We appreciate it to everybody who did it. All of you who did that for us last week. You guys are the fucking bomb. Thank you so much. And if you've done it, if you signed up, and a few of you signed up but haven't made the bet yet or made the deposit yet, you got to do that to get that free NBA League Pass. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this marathon of a show. For our producer, Richard, for all of our Arrowhead Addict members, for Matt Verderame, my name is Patrick Allen. We will see you on Sunday. But until then, go Chiefs.